I'm Ray Porter, and don't worry, no one's listening. The other one I love is this one. Hello, he said in deeply accented Rosicrucian. You're like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to make this work? So there are, that's just nuts and bolts stuff where there's a disconnect a little bit, between the literary and the auditory.
Don't worry, no one's listening.
Hey, everybody. I'm screenwriter and novelist Edward Savio. Welcome to the podcast. Each episode, I sit down with the authors whose books I read and the writers behind the shows and movies I watch, and sometimes the people that bring those words to life. This is a special treat. He's one of my favorite voices inside my head. Ray Porter is a multi-award-winning master narrator, actor of stage and screen, and now even a writer. And yes, the guy who played Darkseid in Zack Snyder's Justice League, which alone probably earns him a lifetime of free drinks at Comic-Con. If you listen to audiobooks, and even if you don't, if you read these bestsellers, you should check out his takes on them, because I'm telling you, they add an extra level. He's brought to life over 700 books, including Project Hail Mary, Jonathan Mayberry's Joe Ledger series, Peter Cline's sci-fi thrillers, Dennis E. Taylor's Bobiverse books, Jack Carr's novels, and my own League of Auld from the Battle for Forever series. Whether he's voicing a lone astronaut fighting for survival, a hardened agent facing the unthinkable, a self-replicating intelligence navigating the stars, or a 1,500-year-old teenager trying to save the world, Ray brings depth, humor, and humanity every single time. That's because Ray doesn't read. He performs. And whether it's on the page, on the stage, or on the screen, his work is an invitation to disappear into the story. We had so much fun doing this episode, and you're going to see it. And you're going to witness how I got to embarrass him with all the praise my other guests have given him. My favorite is Julia Whalen's Ray Porter story. If you're listening, when it gets to that part, open up the video. His reactions are priceless. And so, here's my conversation with Ray Porter.
Don't worry, no one's listening.
Ray, thank you for joining me.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
And remember, we can say whatever we want because no one's listening. It's
Excellent.
Just us. It's just us.
I like that.
It is good. I've talked to you before, both publicly and privately. I really enjoy our conversations. You are funny and creative.
Try to be.
I think that's the only way to live life, right?
I hope so, yeah.
We're going to get into the process later, but I just wanted to dive into, I always wanted to write. Actually, I wanted to be a filmmaker, but writing was my way in and I had no plan B. How did you get into acting and then narrating and all of this?
Well, it's very similar. I mean, the no plan B, on one side you could say, well, you're a horrible chancer, aren't you? And on the other side, you could say, then it forces you to commit. It's a bit like arriving in the new land and burning the ships. There is no choice but to go forward. Because of that, it's like, well, there's this artistic life and there's all this creativity and there's light bills and there's this annoying need for food.
It really is annoying. Yeah.
Oh my God. How do I keep the wolf away from the door doing what it is I do? And it's funny because, the constant thing, meeting a civilian out in the world. What do you do? I'm an actor. Oh, pause, and I know it's coming. Well, have you been in anything I would have heard of? And it's like, oh, you want me to recite my resume now for you? Who the fuck are you? You drop some titles, TV shows or movies or whatever, and and it's weird to them that I sustain myself doing this, but I'm not famous. Do you know?
That is a weird thing, right? I think people don't understand that part.
I think to many people it is. To me, I'm like, sweet, I paid the light bill this last month doing this. I've got food on the table doing this. My kid plays hockey because I'm doing this. I'm able to have a life and walk down the street. I mean, I'm friends with some horribly famous people, and they don't get to go anywhere without security. I don't know that I'd be cool with that. And then randomly you'll get recognized in the damnedest of places. I was on a cruise ship in the Caribbean, and somebody walked over to me and was like, "Were you on The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody?" Yes. What the hell? So, it's random. Because I've been doing this so long, and because, in my early days, like you, it's like, well, I got to make this work.
Yeah.
And I spent so much time doing that. I don't know any other way to live. That doesn't mean that I just blithely say to people starting out like, "Oh, it's fine. You'll be great." No, you won't. There will be days when you wake up and you're actually pissed off that you have to eat because there's no money, there's no food, and no prospect of either.
Yeah.
In the foreseeable. What sustains you is a very personal thing.
I went to Howard University as the only white student to pay to go there. I know what it's like to be famous because everybody knew my name. Everyone knew who I was. It was a great experience, but everybody's eyes were on me. It was uncomfortable. This was a small little space. I could leave and go down to the Smithsonian and not have anybody know me. But on the campus green, everybody knew. I can't imagine a global experience like that.
So yeah, it's definitely a weird thing. Plus, people have a sense of ownership. I've encountered that even with like audiobooks, where I'm the voice in their head while they're driving or doing something else. And so, naturally, hopefully they feel a sense of familiarity. The other side of that I had a guy threaten me with violence because he discovered my politics weren't like his.
I'm going to actually go to one of my later things because it kind of dovetails into this, which is fan interactions. Like, what's your weirdest, funniest, strangest?
I've definitely had some odd ones. Most of the time, it's incredibly pleasant. Sometimes it's really moving, and other times it's a little scary, like the aforementioned fellow. It's not that I'm afraid. I mean, it's like, you want violence, please come try, But on the other side of it, if I do that, that's going to take them out and rob them of the experience. And my sort of commitment to the work is, I've said it so many times before, the author and the listener are the smartest people in the room. All you're doing is delivering the goddamn mail. Do it really, really well and get the hell out. It's not about you. And I constantly tell young narrators that it ain't about you. Get so good at your technique that you remove yourself from the process. And if after they say, "Wow, he's a good narrator," well done,
A couple of people who know you, who I've already interviewed, said, you just wait. There's more about this later.
Oh, God.
I was talking with Julia Whalen last week. Julia said that one of the quotes that she remembers hearing from you was, "Stay the fuck out of the author's way."
Yes. That's exactly right. And well, I mean, Julia, my God, one of the most talented people I've ever met. Just absolutely incredible. I'm so pleased for all of the success that she is having. It's deserved. And she is an icon for a reason.
She was so much fun, and I knew that she was going to be fun to speak to. There's literally a picture, a still, and it's us laughing. And I said, that's going to be the cover for this episode. And I'm just going to cut everything else out but you and me laughing and the Ray Porter story. And that's it.
No, she's incredible. She really is. I first encountered her at the break room at PRH years ago. And she came over and told me about how when she was much younger, like a student, she was dragged to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and saw me in a play. And I felt, it's like, wow, you've made a happy man feel old. It was, but it was so kind of her to say that. And then because she approaches the work like any actor with morals would. And that's why we're seeing the success that she has. She's incredibly good at what she does, but her heart is in the right place. Her head is in the right place. And I admire her immensely. I'm very proud to call her a colleague. And yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing.
She is. You have also written. Do you have to do what the rest of us do, which is lock yourself away?
I don't know. I'm still so larval in the whole thing about writing. I mean, I know I have the privilege of knowing authors like yourself and many others. And it's fascinating to me what the process is for each one. And I've heard authors talking.
Very different.
It's very different. But I've heard I wake up in the morning and I write for at least an hour. I try to get 1,000 words a day. Or the difference between, it's a new term that I learned thanks to Jonathan Mayberry, planners or pantsers. People who plan everything or people who write by the seat of their pants. Well, I think of myself as a writer, I'm a really good actor. I don't know what I'm doing, so I don't know what not to do. I don't like the idea of setting, okay, I'll get to 1,000 words and stop, because what if I've still got more stuff to cover? So I'll hit a natural break, like the song is over in my mind, and I put it down. But for me, and I don't know if this is true of other writers, again, I don't know what I don't know. I'm still so new at this kind of thing. It's real chaotic, real sporadic. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm having an immense amount of fun.
That's great. See, one of the beautiful things about talking, I've spoken to these best-selling authors, and the great thing that I've learned is that there are all these amazing different ways to do things, which have influenced me in going, let me take a look at that. And there's also a core. One of the things I used to tell people, new writers, professionals, the difference between when I'm writing inspired and when I'm writing and slogging it out, the quality is not any different. It's the amount of time it takes for me to write.
Exactly.
There are times when I can't just wait for that inspiration to get me 3,000 words a day or 2,000 words that day. I've got to slog through and get the 500. But there are also times when if I miss that 8-hour window of 500 words, it's not as big of a deal than if I miss the 8-hour window where there's 3,000 words.
To me, it seems like at the core of it, actors, narrators, writers, all of that, you're doing it for the doing of it. I have seen so many actors' performances where they're auditioning for their next job, or they're trying to get laid, or they're, whatever. I've heard so many narrations where the narrator is trying to get the next book or wants to be well thought of. Writers, the same thing. You do this because you absolutely have to. And there are more days when you don't like doing it than there are days where it's like, ooh. And it's gotten to the point for me where if I'm acting or narrating or now writing, where I'm like, wow, this feels really good, I'm immediately suspicious.
Right.
Because if I'm taking pleasure in what I'm doing, it's going to suck every time. That is borne out. And it's you do it for the doing of it, not for the end game and the product.
Right. I will say one thing, and I agree with you 100%. If you are gliding along and there isn't speed bumps in the road,
right,
you are not growing, learning. You are not fighting against the machine. It suffers a bit. The thing that I will say, I can fix it in post. I can do the rewrite. I can go back after I've been pissed off. I used to go to a person in Beverly Hills who cut my hair for probably 20-something years. Even when I lived in San Francisco, I would fly down for meetings and just before I would get a haircut. And because she was the only one who could do there's shit going on here that just, there's just, it's all this stuff, right? Colics and whatever. There would be times when she would be in like a terrible mood, a boyfriend pissed her off or something, and she would give me the best goddamn haircut. Because I would walk in, I'd go, good mood or bad mood? She goes, oh, don't get me started. I'm like, get started.
I'm going to have a great haircut now. Yeah.
It gets so good. And I feel that way with writing. All right, I want to ask you a quick question. Out of all the characters that you narrated, who would be the absolute worst roommate?
Ooh.
And is this a Big Brother situation where there's just a whole bunch?
There'd be a crowd of people that would really not play well together in a domestic situation. I think Joe Ledger would piss everybody off on the first day. I would say Veek from Peter Klein's books, 14 and The Fold, and the Threshold series. He'd be fairly snarky. I think James Reese from Jack Carr's Terminal List would be sat quietly back in the corner, knowing how to efficiently kill everyone in the room and just kind of waiting to see. Yeah, I mean, that's a crazy question, because they all do live in the rather shitty 2-bedroom apartment in my head. It's just, I've never had them all come into the living room and try to choose a Netflix show. Yeah. And again, I mean, that's the thing about really good writing is like these people are living, walking beings. I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 characters out of your book that I narrated that I wouldn't want to be in the room with,
Yeah.
And that is good writing. I mean, these are living, breathing entities. And when you're dealing with really, really good writing as a narrator, you don't have to do that much work. You really don't. You just have to allow the book to carry you and speak it. And it will get you there. Yes, there's core shit about technique and all of that other stuff we could get into, but every book has its own voice. And when you figure out what that voice is, you can lie back. I liken it to a hammock. I've always said that, Shakespeare is the best hammock. Everybody thinks Shakespeare's hard. Shakespeare's not hard. There's technique shit that you've really, really got to get nailed down. But once you've done that, you can put all of your weight on that hammock and it will hold you and carry you. Just do the goddamn words. You don't have to put anything else on it. Just speak it well. And the same is true with narration. Allow the writing to carry you. And people will think you're a great narrator and you're like, I was just talking. I don't know what you know.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to go deep into the weeds on the process of doing what we do.
Great. We're going to hear from our sponsors now. Winston, so round, so firm, so fully packed.
Literally, right now, this episode is brought to you by Chapter 1, version 17.
Oh, I'm really sorry. It is actually sponsored. Fuck, I'm sorry, Chapter 1.
No, it's not. It's not Chapter 1, version 17. If you never finish, no one will hate it. Stick around.
That's a great tagline for a restaurant. Edward Savio's vicious chop house. If you never finish, no one will hate it.
That's it. That's what it is. We've got more with Ray Porter after this.
I'll have the steak.
We've got a lot more to come, including going deep into the weeds on process. I want to give a big shout out to Bookster, home to a huge community of readers, for partnering with us so we can go deep with these writers. They said yes, so you can eavesdrop on our conversations. Readers, there's a lot of excellent content, recommendations, and Q&As with authors. Writers, Bookster helps you reach new readers. Whether you're a reader or a writer, check out bookster.com. And now, even though you're not supposed to be listening, back to the show. Okay, we're back, and we are full from that steak we ate.
It was brilliant. It was really good, although I hated it and didn't finish it.
So welcome back to Don't Worry, No One's Listening. I'm Edward Savio, still here with Ray Porter, who hasn't jumped in a 69 Mach 1 Mustang to leave.
Not just yet.
Not just
yet. No,
yep,
soon.
Yep. I hear you need to keep that thing under 50.
First of all, the car is almost as old as I am, and shit is falling off of both of us, like constantly. So I've been fixing it a lot. I will say, I mean, I'm not saying this actually happened, but should a person find themselves at 110 miles an hour, it's lovely. It's funny. When I'm in England and I go out into the forest and just walk around, I always come back and I feel centered. And I never really had that in LA. I get in that car and the windows are down because there's no AC. Get up past about 70, 75 miles an hour. You can't hear the stereo anyway because of the wind noise. But there's something about that. I come back and I'm like, yeah. So why is a 69 Mach 1 very much like an English forest? That's why.
So we're going to try to get this back on track for a second.
Oh, why at this point? What are we talking about? Oh, that's right. You're an author and I'm a narrator. Okay.
So let's get deep into the weeds on the creative process.
Sure.
I want to say that you've read so many books.
Yes,
You've
I have.
probably finished 3 MFAs in English.
Cool. Oh, I hope I get a nice degree or something. A diploma.
Honestly,
would be nice.
the people that aren't listening, somebody needs to give Ray a doctorate. One of the things that I struggled with, I was a screenwriter first, so I watched a lot of movies and I scrambled to get scripts before they were easy to get. But I didn't read novels as much.
Right.
And once I discovered a few great novels that were funny, then I was like, oh my God. It was kind of like when I realized in high school that Shakespeare was funny. My way into everything, even if it's drama, is funny. So I was talking with Julia Whalen about this. She also has done a ton of books. I think that's got to impact your writing.
It definitely does. I liken it to people who were an assistant or an acolyte of Michelangelo or Da Vinci or whatever, and you look at their work and it's like, oh my God, that's incredible. They clearly were exposed to the process of the work so much that they were able to create on their own something that is significant and singular. And I do think that, having narrated so many books, you do have windows into sort of what works, what doesn't. Now, obviously, when I'm narrating a book, even when I hit a place that just doesn't work, I have to make it work. But inside my head, as I'm narrating, I'm like, maybe a better way to express that would be this. And being kind of on the receiving end of the text for long enough and bringing the text to other people, when you sit down to write, you already have kind of baked in, ooh, don't do that, because that'll set up a trap later for the reader or for the listener, or that's not going to be fully fleshed out. Weirdly, when I've narrated stuff I've written myself, the greatest lesson has been, because as a writer, it's a completely different part of your head. At least it is for me. So yeah, there's different rooms.
I've done one of my books. Yeah.
Right. And I was narrating my story and went, oh my God, I set myself a hell of a trap there as a narrator. And I wasn't thinking like that. I was thinking as a writer, get the story out. Then I'm trying to narrate this thing and I'm like, oh God, that doesn't work as a narrator. Maybe that's not going to work so much for the reader. I've got to alter this somehow to make it work.
One of the things that, when you did League of Auld,
yes.
Will Wheaton had done the first 2 books. And when Will dropped out, the only person I was like, who has gravitas was you.
Oh.
And I begged you, I appreciate you coming on.
I'm proud to be in that number. Will is an incredible talent. He's amazing.
Both you guys have, very different styles, but in ways you're both the same. There are maybe a handful, maybe 2 handfuls that really elevate the narration and don't just read, they perform. I said it in the opening, and I mean that. You don't read, you perform. I was talking about speed with Julia Whalen. Fastest I can listen to you is at about 1.1. The fastest I can listen to myself is at about 1.1. Same with her. Same with Will. I think that when people read, they tend to sound a little bit like they're in Jell-O. The feel.
This is something that I talk about. I've been called upon, I think, because there's some gray in my beard now. Who are we kidding? It looks like I face planted in some Glidden house paint. But the thing that I tell anybody who is beginning narration is stop thinking about the shoulds. I should sound like this. I should read like this. I should do it this way, because you're disconnected then from the text. You're disconnected from yourself. And so begins a certain cadence of narration where there's a sound and you have to talk like this. And it's, and of course people accelerate that up to 1.5 or 2 speeds. The other thing is there's a great danger of AI supplanting a lot of these folks out of jobs. The answer to that is do something that a toaster cannot replicate. Human beings are sloppy. The best stories are about sloppy human beings.
Oh, I agree. I have so many what I consider flaws in my novels. Like as a screenwriter, I was not a flawless screenwriter, but I was much more succinct, streamline a story to the most basic points.
Mhm.
I didn't take as many risks because eventually somebody was going to have to act these things out and it was going to be millions of dollars. When I heard your narration, there were a couple of moments where I went, oh, I fucked this up. There was a couple of things that I asked you to do when we did our
Mhm.
retakes. And some of that was me realizing
Right.
that it didn't make sense when I heard
Well,
it.
at the end, and at the end of the day, it's like, is it actually serving the story or not? And if it doesn't work, it's like, yeah,
You have to be willing to take a look at your own work and be that open to criticism, even self-criticism, where I was like, I didn't do my job here. And you made it sound great, but it didn't work when I heard it.
I've encountered a few authors who've been like, well, that's not what I wrote. And it's like, actually it is. Problem is, the minute you showed it to somebody else, it ceased to be yours.
Yep. I had the same thing happen with Will. Same thing,
Yeah.
where there'd be parts where it wasn't even I can't even believe sometimes that you guys deal with this, where we write sentences that are linguistically difficult.
That happens. Yeah. There's also ones where I wish that I could have gills surgically sewn into my neck so I could breathe while I'm trying to get to the end of a thought. That definitely occurs. You shouldn't write a book thinking about what's the audiobook going to sound like.
Right.
You just shouldn't. But when you have things like a character's been established, there's this Irish guy and he's a little bit questionable. You don't know much about him, and you go through 3 chapters with him. Then the protagonist is sitting in his hotel room and the phone rings and it's a mysterious voice on the end of the line and you're not supposed to know who it is, but the voice on the end of the line is this. Well, in audio, you're done,
Yeah.
You can say in text, he didn't know who it was, but if you're talking about audio, it's like, The other one I love is this one. Hello, he said in heavily accented Slavic. You ain't going to know that off one word. What the hell are you doing? So,
Hello.
hello. I mean, come on. You get that constantly where it'll be like, yup, he said in deeply accented Rosicrucian. You're like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to make this work? So that's just nuts and bolts stuff where there's a disconnect a little bit, between the literary and the auditory. But in things like you're talking about, I can see where that would happen. I accepted pretty early on in my life that I wouldn't be winning beauty contests anytime soon. And so there was a lot of time where I just spent my whole life going, oh, I'm ugly. I'm not good looking or whatever. And then I'll see a photograph from when I was in my 20s. I'm like, fuck, I was a babe. What was I doing? And I think sometimes you can be a little gentler with yourself about things like that, where it's like, oh, this sucks. Maybe it doesn't suck as bad as you think it does. Whether it's a book or your life, 9 times out of 10, with the fullness of time, you look back and you're like, it really wasn't that major. It wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't, I wasn't as awful as I thought I was, I'm more awful now,
When I was starting to do this, I had a moment of imposter syndrome.
Oh.
I was like,
Oh,
right?
My
Right?
imposter syndrome could kick your imposter syndrome's ass. Okay?
Right. So
My imposter syndrome makes Hulk Hogan look like Billy Barty. There's some old references that no one will get.
people are right now, the people who aren't listening are Googling
furiously.
right now furiously. They are scrolling. They are like, what?
You know something? My feeling about imposter syndrome, and I talked about this with some authors in Colorado Springs, because I was like, oh my God, I've got huge imposter syndrome. And I don't know, I don't know whether they were just being nice, but they're like, you? What do you mean? Me. I don't think a little bit of imposter syndrome is necessarily a bad idea.
Agreed.
It's that voice, remember thou art mortal, However, the big ones, like I get to grapple with every day, I finally figured out that, yes, there's the fear of what if it doesn't work out. But if you really examine it, the greater fear, the thing to actually be terrified of is what if it does?
When I sold my first big screenplay to a studio, that was when the terror comes in.
Yep.
I had to, all these people said really nice things about me, and all of a sudden now they're paying money
Yeah.
a
Now
good
you're
amount of it.
responsible for that.
But one of the reasons why, like when you say about the imposter syndrome, that doesn't surprise me because I know you're a self-aware person. I don't think really cocky people are all that good at their jobs.
No, I've found that to be true. 9 times out of 10, every time I've encountered somebody who does what we do, if they're a mensch, their work is going to be better. It just,
Agreed.
there are people who have had great success and are the worst see you next Tuesdays you've ever encountered in your life. But that's really, really rare. And I also don't think it sustains. It's especially because we're holding a mirror up to humanity. We got to be humans ourselves.
Whether it's acting, whether it's writing, whether it's narrating, do you have any weird rituals you go through?
I certainly did at the beginning of my career, not superstitions really, but just things that would help me get centered and things that would help me feel less afraid. I would go outside and find an interesting stone and pick it up and keep it in my pocket, or I'd hold it in my hand while I was doing the thing, and it centered me and it helped. Now I have found over the course of time, cheerfully leaning into the chaos is the key for me.
Do you think that comes from the fact that you've done things so many times and you've failed but you've succeeded more, and you kind of know this is kind of where it is and this is where I'm at? Or
the ultimate illusion is that we have control over this stuff. We talked a few seconds ago about, you write something, and the minute you show it to somebody else, it's no longer yours.
Yep.
Well, that is chaos. That is entropy. That is a physical process in the universe. You can fight against it all you want. Have a good time until you get comfortable with the fact that there's just going to be an unknown. It might suck. It might be horrific. You can apply all of your technique and all of your acquired knowledge to keep that wolf away from the door. But at the end of the day, it either works for people or it doesn't. I will tell you, at least in audiobook narration, audiobook listeners will tell you if you're bad. I mean, my God, they have ownership over this. And I love it because it keeps us in check. If you listen,
it's right here. They're so close.
Absolutely. Early in my career, I was about 4 or 5 books in doing audiobooks. And I thought, oh, well, I guess I do this now. I'd better figure out how I'm supposed to do this. So I started listening to the shoulds. I went out and I listened to all these different narrators. Oh, these are the rules. This is what you have to do. And I talked to people and they're like, no. You got to read through the book at least twice before you record. You've got to annotate the character. Well, I was a really good student and I did all of that. And I did this book and it sucked. It was horrific. It was terrible. And a narrator who I admire immensely, and I credit him with being basically the father of my career as an audiobook narrator, Grover Gardner. And he called me and he said, I hired you for you. I hired you for what you do, not sounding like everyone else. I know narrators who do all of those things and they fly. That works for them. I had to figure out what worked for me, and what works for me is reading the book cold.
We've had this conversation. Mayberry talked about this.
Yeah.
I know how you did, when we were working together. I am in awe of that because one of the things I said to Julia Whalen was I was talking with Ray and I said, hey, what's your ratio? First of all, she's like, that's a great thing that narrators should come up and go when they're pulling the dick swinging contest. It should be like, what's your ratio, man? What's your ratio? 2 to 1, 1.8 to 1.
Listen, I've been around narrators. They don't need another thing to swing their dicks about. Okay. Don't give them that. Jesus.
And you're like, well, what was yours? When, to me, when I did a Velvet Sledgehammer, and I was like, like 8 to 1, and
oh my God.
And I said this to Julia and I said, I lied to him. It was not. It was more. It was more.
Te absolvo.
So do you ever now you're moving into this more with the writing thing too. Mm-hmm. Do you get writer's block ever?
I don't know.
And is there an actor equivalent?
Yeah, sure there is. There's also a musical equivalent. I've been a guitar player for a long, long time, and like writing pieces of music or writing songs. In my mind, the image I have is Legos, it's like that doesn't fit. That's not quite right. I'm trying to build an airplane and this is looking like a chair. So I need to like reconfigure stuff. And so, one thing chains into the next, one thing clicks into place into the next, like building Legos. Now, as a writer, I will say there's been a couple of times when I've definitely painted myself into a corner and I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do now? But instead of slavishly going, it has to be this and I must stay the course, I'm like, oh, well, fuck it. I'll go back and just change everything,
Right.
and do that.
Blow out the corner.
Exactly. Set some Semtex on the walls and suddenly it's not a corner. It's the middle of the room.
It is. It's a hallway.
Yeah, it's really,
you can run right through it.
It's not writer's block. It's a question of redecorating.
Exactly.
I've not encountered writer's block yet. Of course, now that we've had this conversation, I'll sit down to write and just be completely fucked. So thanks.
No, you're welcome. But I'll tell you what the best thing about first of all, writer's block is not really a thing in a sense. You can get over it as long as you know what the next scene or the 3 scenes afterwards are. If you have some idea, if you're a pantser, as Mayberry would say, it's harder.
Yeah.
You've got to be a little bit of a plotter.
I don't believe there is such a thing as a pure pantser.
Never.
I just don't see that. I mean, unless you're like a Dadaist,
Well, I would ask you this, though. I would ask you this. How can you possibly read something cold? Are you a pure cold reader? I mean, because that's pretty fucking close to a pantser.
It is very close to a pantser. I will say 9 times out of 10, if I get a book, I will read the first like 3-4 pages. Within that time, I can hear the voice of the book. I know what the book sounds like when it's talking. I'm not talking about the characters. I'm not talking about the narrative. I'm talking about the book itself as a separate entity, which sounds like I'm about to light joss sticks and hang some tie-dye back here, but it is a very real thing. As such, if the book then does something that's really out of character, it'll catch me off guard. And yes, I've fucked up and had to go back because I'm cold reading.
Yep.
But when you do enough of these books, and I'm not recommending that a new narrator start out cold reading, there's technique shit that goes on. There's understanding of story. There's understanding of language. That comes with time. That comes with experience. It took me a really long time to figure out what is going to help me deliver the mail as efficiently as I can, which is not the way for everybody. Anybody who stands up and says, this is how you write, this is how you're supposed to act, this is how, you narrate, they're trying to sell you something.
That's true. So you kind of mentioned this already, but worst advice you ever got. It seems like going through and mapping everything out.
It was advice I gave myself, but the point is I tried it. And I do think everything has to be tried. You will not know if something doesn't work for you unless you try it, right? What works for me best is that kind of shotgun kind of thing. Ratio, I'm about 1-to-1.
That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. And that allows you to actually have a life.
Well, it does. There's that. I'm a lot less harried at the end of the day. Everybody thinks, you're just sitting in a chair and reading. I'd like that job. No, you wouldn't. It's hard. No. It's really hard. And people don't understand that. It's
doing stand-up.
Kind of, yeah. To silence. You won't get the laugh for another like month. Or the 1-star review on Audible. It is taxing in a lot of ways. I've been more tired at the end of the day narrating a book than I ever was doing Shakespeare or being on a set for 12 hours.
I think people don't understand why there are famous performers that have problems with substances because there ain't anything like the drug.
Well,
being in front of an audience.
I was in Almost Famous for like 4 months. I was
one of your times where you looked, great. No beard, right? No beard.
I had just a mustache.
Just a mustache.
I was much heavier. I was also much younger. That was an incredible experience. It was amazing.
I love him, by the way. He's great. Jesus. I love Crow.
The vibe that Cameron has in his movies exists on his sets. I tell people all the time, the way in that movie when all the band is together and all the roadies are together and they're all hanging out, that feeling, that sense of joy and magic, that's how it was all the time on that set.
Yep.
because I play guitar and Billy Crudup obviously plays the lead guitarist in the band, Billy and I got on pretty famously. And also I play, and he had to learn to play for camera. So Peter Frampton, who co-wrote the music that the band plays, was on set teaching him the leads so that it looked right for camera. So Billy Crudup's guitar teachers were Peter Frampton and me. Anyway, they had all these reference books around from the 70s and big books of band pictures. And I'm sitting in Billy's trailer with Peter, and I'm leafing through this book, and I turn the page, and there's a giant shot of Peter at the height of things. From upstage, from behind, he's midair in a leap, and there's about 40,000 people.
Oh my God.
Right. And he's sitting on the couch next to me. And I went, hey, look. And he went, oh, yeah. Yeah. Now do you understand why drugs are such a thing? You go from that to walking backstage, and you're supposed to be normal, you know?
Yeah.
And it was an interesting window. It made sense. And I remember things like, I did this play with Tom Hanks, and obviously a lot of his compatriots would come to see him in the show, and you'd end up backstage talking with people who were gods.
Yep.
And then you get in your car and you're filling up your tank and getting a sandwich from the Chevron, and you're driving back to Pasadena, and it's like,
those Chevron sandwiches are really, honestly.
Oh boy. Chef's kiss. But I was of the age where I had to enter the magical world of colonoscopies, and I had one scheduled, and Tom, he's like, hey, you're missing rehearsal on Thursday. Are you okay? Because Tom is that good of a guy. And I said, yes, I'm fine. I have to join Men Over 50. And he goes, oh, yes. And he said, what I do is whenever I go in for mine, Steve Martin and Martin Short and I all schedule ours on the same day, and then we go to the Ivy for lunch after. I'm like, that's the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life. Cut to months later, Martin Short comes to see the show. I get to meet Martin Short. I could talk about his career. I could talk about all the things he's done that shaves me. What do I talk about? Colonoscopies.
I have a family history. I've had to do those since I was 35.
Holy shit.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Oh boy. Yeah, sorry. That was
it's a little on the nose. That was just a bit on the
hopefully not on the nose. We have now descended.
We have gone.
Thank God no one is listening.
Thank God. See, this is why. This is why no one's listening. So I remember waking up and, again, being someone who writes comedy, and they're doing this. I'm in the twilight, anesthesia, and I wake up, and there's just a television over here because I'm on my side, and they're behind me looking at the television, and I'm just like, that's a really shitty show.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Did you get that procedure in LA?
I have.
Okay. Once. Okay. Put that on your IMDb. That's a screen credit in LA. So congratulations and happy opening.
Oh, that's great.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah, acting.
So here, all right. So most unexpected. We're going to take a break in a second, but
Jesus.
Christ. Oh. Woo. Okay, and we ain't cutting that.
No, Lisa's got to be exploding right now.
Oh, right now.
I'm sorry, Lisa.
Most unexpected turn your career's taken.
To me, the joy of having a career like this is, if you notice it, and I do believe it is our job as sentient beings to constantly notice. I have noticed and appreciated a lot of really wild turns in my career. Lots of different things, lots of crazy, wonderful, cool things. And at the end of the day, they make really great stories, I would say possibly one of the weirdest turns in my creative life has been embarking on writing. I had narrated Jonathan Mayberry's books. We're into our 11th or 12th book at this point. Sorry, Jonathan, I've got the number wrong, but, and I love them. And I think about those characters. It's a huge ensemble of really interesting, really cool characters. And I didn't write. I was driving home one day and I started thinking about this one character, and I got home and I grabbed my iPad and wrote this 3-page thing. And I said to Jonathan in an email, look, I tried this. I know it's like showing Stephen Hawking my geometry final, but I needed to get this out. It was like a splinter. So here it is. Let me know what you think. And he was like, this is great. I'm sticking it in an anthology. And suddenly I'm a writer and I'm published. What the
Is that the one that's in Unbreakable?
fuck?
Is that the one
No,
that's
it's the one before. It's
before?
a little vignette at the end of the first anthology of Joe Ledger's stories written by other authors. He stuck it in at the very end. Then he came to me with Unbreakable and he kind of gave me a brief. He said, I want this to happen. Great. And I did it. And people really liked it. It was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
Thank you. And thank you. I mean, to hear that from you means the world. And then I did the thing for Weird Tales, the little bit of flash fiction. That's a strange turn. I mean, there's things like I played guitar at the Grand Ole Opry one weekend, which is just crazy. But to me, it doesn't have to be career related. It's just life stuff.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not saying that at some point, because of my enthusiasm and interest in other people, I ended up driving a fully loaded London tube train on a Saturday. I'm never going to say that happened. It's about being enthusiastic and interested and saying yes. And yes, there are distinctly strange things, doing Zack Snyder, helping Zack because he likes to hear scripts rather than just sit and read them.
Yep.
And so going into the room and reading them with him. And then one day in a hallway at Leavesden Studios in England, he shows me a CGI picture of a character. He's like, what do you think he would sound like? And, I just came up with a voice, just went, well, I think he would sound like, and I did this voice. He's like, cool. I didn't think anything of it, because I don't think like that. And 2 weeks later, somebody else comes to me and goes, oh yeah, you're playing Darkseid. And now suddenly I've got fandom and Comic-Cons and all of this other stuff to think of. And again, just be present, be enthusiastic, be inquisitive. And it's fun. It makes for great stories,
By the way, I think Darkseid might be not a great roommate.
Darkseid would kind of suck. Yeah. I mean, obviously everything's on fire. It's like, dude, get central heating. What? I mean, what's so hard? And moisturize.
I mean, guy needs some Noxema, something.
Oh God, something. A little cold cream at the end of the day.
All right. Time for a quick break while we rethink everything we just said.
We digress.
About everything we just said and a few of our life choices. You're listening, even though you're not supposed to Don't Worry. No one's listening.
Who's our sponsor?
This time, procrastination.
If something is worth doing, it's worth doing half-ass. We'll be right back.
Hey, everybody, we're taking a break. But I want to just mention one thing. If you're like me, you don't always have time to sit with a book. What I do is stack formats. You read at night, you listen in the car. You get to finish more books. Reading has made me a happier, healthier person. So if you've been meaning to read more, grab an ebook, add the audio, bounce between them. Drop me a line on what you're pairing, at Edward Savio. I hear Lisa calling, even though you can't. So let's get back to more with Ray Porter. All right, we're back with Ray Porter, and it's time for a laugh, cry, scream. Ray, this is where I ask you to share the stories that have hit you the hardest, right? A book, a movie, a show, scene that made you laugh, one that made you cry, and one that made you scream, either from fright or frustration. What's your laugh?
I'm going to say there is a movie that will consistently make me laugh no matter how many times I've seen it. And if I think about references from it, I will laugh. And that would be the movie The In-Laws with Peter Falk. And
Serpentine Shell.
Serpentine Shell. And I actually, my child at 5 years old, I trained him to use the proper inflection to say Honduras. It just, you see, I
love this movie. I love it.
It is. And there's a thing Alan Arkin does when the dictator is doing the like hand puppet thing, and all you see him do is just this.
Right.
Just that.
That's nice. Okay.
Oh my God. There's another thing in This Is Spinal Tap. When Rob Reiner, in the introductory scene of the documentary, so what do we say about, and he just in the middle of folding his arms decides against it.
Because standing and figuring out what to do with your hands is a difficult thing. Is a difficult thing.
It's such a brilliant little thing, and it destroys me. It's because we've all done that.
I love The In-Laws.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes, I need to watch that again, actually.
So what's your cry? I can see you tearing up already.
Oh, yeah. About 2 weeks after my father died, a friend decided that he would help distract me and help, maybe take my mind off of things. So he took me to see Field of Dreams. That was a mistake. And I still lose it at the end in that last scene. Yes, there's a lot of parts of that movie that through the lens of now seem pretty naff, but there's elements of Band of Brothers that will have me, mopping the floor. I mean, a quick way to really destroy me is anything involving veterans. I never had the privilege of serving, but I have known and loved many veterans, and yeah, it's a real touchstone for me. A really, really major figure in my life was a fellow named Steve Mason, who was an Army captain, Green Beret in Vietnam, and came back and published 3 books of poetry, the first book being Johnny Song Poetry of a Vietnam Veteran. And he was such an incredible guy. He was best man at my wedding. Wedding didn't last, but he did. And he died as a result of exposure to Agent Orange. So he used to say, I died in Vietnam 30 years ago. I just didn't know it.
I remember your tribute to him. I remember you writing about that.
Yeah. Very formative in my life. I cry pretty easy at stuff. The John Lewis Christmas adverts in the UK will always just have me a puddle. It's like, all right, 364 days of the year, I'm a badass, but not now.
What's your scream?
Stephen King's Pet Sematary. Where you're just like, I shouldn't be reading this. I've always loved horror. I mean, the great thing about being Gen X is that we were reading Stephen King when we were 9, which says a whole lot about us.
Yeah.
It's still my absolute ultimate dream to narrate a Stephen King book. So Stephen, if you're listening, hello. Jonathan Mayberry has written some stuff. His book, Ink, that I had the privilege of narrating. Oh my God.
By the way, I think you said 12. I think there are 14 Joe Ledgers. So if you've done other books of his,
thank God for Jonathan Mayberry for so many reasons. But yeah, I guess we're into 14 now. Good God. Of just the Joe Ledger books, but I've also done additional things. I've done his short stories. I've done Ink. I've done some of his other books because he's the most prolific writer I've ever met in my life. The very first time I was at Blackstone and they came to me with this book, they were like, it's kind of a weird military thriller kind of thing, like Tom Clancy and Stephen King sort of. I don't know. I'm like, sign me up.
Patient Zero? Was that Patient Zero?
Patient Zero was the first Joe Ledger book that I did. And I was 2 pages in and I'm like, oh, I know this guy. Joe and I were very simpatico, like immediately. Jonathan was also the first author to reach out to me via a letter after the book came out, telling me that he liked what I did, and I still have a copy of it. He is the architect. As I am becoming a writer, it's all down to Jonathan Mayberry. Aside from being ridiculously prolific, he is a profoundly kind man and generous with his knowledge. And I credit him with a lot. What we were talking about before, your ability to be a mensch says a lot about your ability as an artist. And I think that's definitely borne out with Jonathan.
Our conversation was so long. I think he's probably down a book this year.
Damn it, man. Come on. I'm going to narrate it. So
that's right.
Stop it.
So here's a perfect time. We're going to put the brakes on this. I'm going to take a moment to embarrass you. Here, I just want you to listen to a couple of people that I've spoken to.
Okay.
I love Ray Porter.
Everybody loves Ray Porter. There's no surprise whatsoever that it got Best Narrator. And he is a very large part of the reason why We Are Legion and the others took off, because he does the voices. He's an actor. He's not just a narrator, and he brings it to life. And he brings a lot of humor into it. I mean, he did things like make Guppy sound like Admiral Akbar. Colonel Butterworth sounded like Colonel Fowler in Chicken Run.
Okay, that's Dennis E. Taylor.
Dennis. Oh
Right.
my God. Yeah.
What? Wait, there's more. You're not getting off this
Damn
easy
it,
yet.
dude.
Hold on.
Come on.
Hold on. I'm trying to bring the cry. Ray Porter has done about 1.5 million of your books.
Yep.
He's amazing.
Ray is a real gift. He's become one of my dearest friends. He's like closer to me than my family is. Josh Stanton over at Blackstone hired Ray to do this. And right out of the box, Ray just put his own stamp on it to the point where I now hear Ray's voice when I'm writing dialogue for all of my key characters. Also, he does something that is maybe has more than a toe over the line into witchcraft in that he doesn't pre-read the book. He does his recordings as cold reads.
All right. And here's a final thought.
Let me tell you about my Ray Porter story. It's actually a couple of stories.
Oh God.
Ray is the reason I'm an actor. I was a child who went to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival every summer. That was our family vacation.
That's his thing, man.
I saw Ray do everything there for a few solid summers in a row in the early to mid 90s. Particularly Libet. He had like a 20-minute monologue, and I just sat there, just talk about wonder. I just could not get over what I was seeing, and all I wanted to do was do what he did and be at the Shakespeare Festival.
God.
And years later, I went into one of my first audiobook mixers, and there were like people standing in a corner, and someone said, "That's Ray Porter," and I went, "Wait, not the Ray Porter," and they were like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I was like, "The actor Ray Porter." Like, it was like George Clooney was in the room. And I ran over to him and was like, "You don't know me, but basically I do this entirely because of you." And he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. Like, take me back. What are you talking about?" And I just dumped everything at his feet and was like, "So basically this is all your fault." Dun, dun, dun. And I love him so much, but it's crazy to me that we ended up in this industry. Like, this is where we have both decided to do our time, because he was everything.
So,
shit. Why don't do that? I've got an imposter syndrome to feed. Fuck off.
Would you mind fucking off?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Oh my God.
That's Chris Moore for you.
You know, I mean, these are people, those three people I think of so highly. And yeah, that means a lot.
So Dennis E. Taylor, Jonathan Mayberry, Julia Whalen.
Yeah. Jesus. Thank you. Yeah, that's, I don't know what the hell to say. That's amazing. That's amazing.
It was so much fun. You know, I mean, I love talking to everybody about writing and creating, but it was just so good to have this connection. Like we're 1 degree of Ray Porter is what we are. All of these people.
I have the privilege of knowing all of you.
Well, I'm just grateful that you took that chance.
It's always a bit of a risk, even when it comes from a major publisher. I mean, I've had some books where I'm like, wow, I had a publisher contact me. I'm not going to say which, and it's a long time ago, and I think it's out of print now. But, you know, I've had some that have been really, really hard to like get done and not a lot of fun. And, you know, that happens sometimes. And so I've gotten unsolicited, you know, from people, not from a major publisher. And I want to be kind. It could be the most amazing book ever that's just not published yet, but I do want to have a look at it to see if, not only if I think it's, you know, a really good book or anything, but if I'm a proper fit for it, because there's a ton of books that I have no business narrating. And so my typical thing is one of great caution with that, because I did agree to do one time years ago, and it was, oh my God. Oh, and so that left me
not good. Yeah.
Very reticent about this stuff, you know? So my God, was I relieved when yours was good.
Yeah.
But also,
my kids say the same thing too.
Yeah, my girlfriend says the same. She came and saw me. I did a play called Stones in His Pockets up in Ashland, and she'd, you know, never seen me do that. Afterwards, she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so relieved you're good." I was like, "Thank you." It's the worst, isn't it terrible?
Oh my God.
Oh my God, it's the worst. It's always a bit of a risk, but I have found that with that sense of caution and respect, it pays dividends, like in the case of your book, like in the case of many others that I've had the privilege to do, where I've been approached and I said, yeah. And it's been a great experience for everyone, but ultimately for the listener.
So for the first two of those clips I played, those are people, you're narrating the work like you did for me. And kind of, I have that same feeling about how you've elevated the work. With Julia, you are responsible for that person coming into this.
That's just crazy to me. That's just crazy to me. I love that. I love it. It's wonderful to hear that because there's so many people that inspired me to want to do this. And it means a lot to be able to tell that person, hey, you're the reason I do this, or hey, you're the reason, to be on the receiving end of it is immensely humbling.
Before we record, I say, do you want to say anything? She's like, oh, remind me, I got to tell you the Ray Porter story. And so I'm doing the wrapping up and I'm just leading into it. And she's like, hold on. She's like, I didn't tell you the Ray Porter story. And I was like, Ray Porter, tell me about Ray, and she then went back and told the story. So she saved me from myself to put that in because I would have been so pissed off.
But,
if I'd forgotten.
I'm just sitting here with how kind of her to do that. I mean, that's Julia goddamn Whalen, man. I mean, she is a force of nature. She is so immensely talented, like beyond, and could be whatever she wanted, and she would have the right to be so, and she chooses to be kind. Yeah, Julia is absolutely incredible, and so happy for her that, I remember it was like, oh my God, she's written a book. That's incredible. I wish I could do that. And then, now it's going to be on Netflix, My Oxford Year.
Yep.
Bless her. She's incredible.
All right. So we're going to do some rapid fire questions and then some not so rapid fire.
Great. I'll try to rapid fire answer and not take a year and a half. You ask me what time it is, I tell you how to make a watch. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Lawyer, agent, whose life do you save? You can only save one.
My agent's like, why are you thinking so long? Why is this taking so long to think about? What the hell is the matter? That would involve her calling me. But anyway, you know what? I don't know, because honestly, I just recently had an experience with a lawyer who I adore because she was everything you would ever want a lawyer to be. And my agent has been absolutely marvelous and long-suffering. Who do I save? Shit.
In a year, when I ask you this question, I'm going to add an editor.
Ooh, editors save me. These are people whose job it is to help you. So I'm like, oh God, I have to sacrifice one to the fire. I don't know. Can I say hedge fund managers? Let them burn.
Sure.
Hedge fund managers. Let them burn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Biggest lesson you've learned from reading other people's stuff out loud.
The thing I constantly repeat over and over and over again. The book and the listener are the smartest people in the room. Bring the book to the listener. That's it. That's your job. End of. If you treat the book and the listener with equal and immense respect, then you'll be fine.
If you could swap lives with any of the characters that you've read, who would it be and how long do you think you'd actually survive?
Well, I would have to say Joe Ledger. And I probably would last about 14 seconds in a fight.
One writer or actor you'd love to have a drink with and one you'd challenge to a duel.
I would love to have a drink with Umberto Eco, my favorite author. I was deeply saddened when he passed. He's a hero of mine. Actor Chris Cooper or David Strathairn. I admire both of them so much, their work. I really do, always have. Who would I have a duel with? I'd love to have a go at Norman Mailer just because, he's Norman Mailer.
I think that's a good answer.
Yeah. I'd love to try to have a fight with him. Especially now that he's dead, I think I might have an advantage. Maybe not though.
Maybe not.
There's several actors that, nobody knows their names that, I've been in plays with or in acting school. I'd love to run through with something dull. Perhaps a spoon. But it's nobody who's famous. Could it be a fun and entertaining duel?
Sure.
I'd have to go back to Princess Bride because I am handy with a sword. Did you ever hear the knock knock?
Who's there?
Ray Porter.
Ray Porter who?
That's Hollywood.
Okay, if you weren't an actor, what god-awful, incredibly unsuitable job would you have?
Incredibly unsuitable job.
Yes.
Accountant. Anything involving adulting and or numbers, I'm fucked.
All right, we're going to pause the plot and maybe pause the snack as well.
Who's our sponsor?
I think perhaps adulting.
Adulting may not be right for everyone. Patients have experienced boredom, ennui, a desire to kill themselves slowly with a fork. Ask your doctor if adulting is right for you.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Going into the break.
Are we still on the air? Fuck.
If you are listening, despite all our warnings not to, follow the show, rate it, drop me comments and recommendations. I read them very slowly. I can be reached pretty much on all social media at Edward Savio, except, strangely, Facebook, where I'm at Edward Savio Writer. Lisa should be just about wrapping up giving her notes. So let's get back to more with Ray Porter.
Don't worry, no one's listening.
Okay. Still us, still talking, still somehow allowed by the authorities.
Well, yeah. I mean, this hasn't gone out yet.
Yeah. This is don't worry, no one's listening. All right. So the thing I want to know most about you is that this journey into writing, is it as scary as the first journey into acting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's precisely why I'm having so much fun, is because after, such a long time doing these other things, to suddenly embark on something that is challenging and unknown and that I'm not good at is marvelous. And I would encourage people to embark on something. And I don't mean take up knitting. I don't mean, start fishing. I'm talking about find something that's potentially a little scary that maybe you've never, ever done, and just see what's there and don't think about the end game. I'm fortunate to have Jonathan Mayberry as kind of my sensei, but it's still, while I've been around it, I haven't actually done it. I've certainly eaten a lot of really terrific dishes, but now I'm in the goddamn kitchen and I have to make some dinner. It's scary in all the best possible ways. It's daunting and slightly intimidating, and I love that.
Speaking with Dennis Taylor, I didn't understand that he didn't start writing till he was 57.
No. That's right. That's right. He is really, he's amazing. I love him.
I think we were off the air when you mentioned this, but your grandfather...
My grandfather was a publicity advance man for Ringling Brothers and for a ton of other circuses in America, early circus stuff. He was also a magician. My mother was on Broadway, danced with Gwen Verdon and Redhead, was in Call Me Madam with Ethel Merman, did shows all over the country, was in a couple of movies. So I grew up with this in the house. I wasn't going to join the family business. I wanted to be a combat photographer. I related to the story about my grandfather taking me aside when I was small, and a very serious conversation. And he said, the man who pulls the rope to raise the curtain, the person who does your costume, the person who's the stage manager, the people running around backstage, these are the people that you will show the most respect to always, because they're not impressed, but also they remember.
Yeah.
And I learned early on that self-importance as an actor is a mug's game, and you don't do that.
I want to say this to you, and I hope you can hear it. You are you. That comes through even when you're doing different people's stuff. I do not write like Carr. Maybe I could have a story like Peter Klein's, but I don't write like Peter Klein's. It was just my birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. My oldest wrote me a note and they said to me, you leave marks, Dad. You leave marks on the world in different places and with different people. And the most important marks I think people leave is when they are authentic.
I agree.
And I know that not everybody knows your name, right? There's a lot of people who do, but I'm so grateful for when you've delivered these things to me, not just for my book, because that was great, but you've delivered to me this pleasure where I've gotten to know other people when I didn't have enough time to go sit down and read everything.
Right.
You've opened me up. And I think Julia does the same thing. And I think there's other people, Scott Brick has done this, where you bring this, I've told you before, gravelly sarcasm with gravitas.
Yeah. That's the name of my law firm. Yeah. That's, the thing is, at the end of the day, I don't believe my own PR ever. It is about authenticity. It's about truth, because the point of all of this work that I do, anything that I do in my craft is ultimately to make the person who paid money and chose to use their time by coming to listen to this book or see this movie or TV show or play or whatever, that they walk away having felt something. And so that means removing myself or sublimating myself to the work, to what is demanded by the text, the play, the book, the whatever it is.
Yep.
I've said before that I think every book has its own identity.
Yeah.
And it's a question of just introducing my friend, the book, to my friend, the listener. I talked to somebody recently about this. I said, you ever have two friends and you really wanted to try to hook them up? And so you arrange a lunch or a dinner, and she shows up and he shows up, and maybe you do some things to get the conversation going. But at some point, you shut the fuck up and let the two of them talk. And if you're a really good friend, you'll come up with a reason to leave early so that they can get together. And all I'm doing essentially is being a yenta between the text and the audience.
I would argue you do a little more than that, but I appreciate how you see that. But
I've got decades of technique behind me that I have worked really fucking hard to nail down in the name of doing this. I'm not shortchanging myself. I'm not poo-pooing anything that I've done. What I'm saying is that the effectiveness of my craft is towards one goal. And so it's about perennially improving the craft.
And I feel that. And I feel like you do get out of the way. This is something I say to everybody. And I think you're going to feel this in the future. And you might have felt it in a different way from the actor's point of view. It's a quote from Charles Dickens, and I want to get your take on it. It would concern the reader little to know how sorrowfully the pen is laid down at the close of a 2 years' imaginative task, or how an author feels as if he were dismissing some portion of himself into the shadowy world when a crowd of the creatures of his brain are going from him forever. So, how have you felt about putting those characters that you've acted out of your brain?
They're not mine anymore. The minute they're shown to someone else, they belong to someone else. As much as I might feel bereft, and believe me, I have done at the ends of books, I miss the people in these books. Project Hail Mary, I had to grieve for a couple of days when that thing was done. But I'm going to make the analogy of being a parent because my son is about to go off to college. For me, it was 10 minutes ago that I was tying little tiny hockey skates on, or that I was reading to him, and he's patting me on the arm going, "Daddy, don't do the voices." I was reading him to sleep. "Don't do the voices, just read the book." "Okay, sorry, son." Jesus. And now he's driving, he has a job. If I'm doing my job as a parent, I have to recognize when my job downsizes, when it ceases. I have to toss him the keys and trust that I put in the work necessary to let him go out into the world on his own. And, sure, you're going to feel sad, maybe.
Yeah.
You'll feel out of control. You might feel wistful. You might, all of those things, and those feelings are real, but they're just feelings. The fact is, it's out in the world now. It's somebody else's, it's going to have its own life.
So if you want people to, I don't know if you do, but how can they follow you?
Well, on Facebook, Ray Porter Audiobook Narrator is the page that you would want to look at. Instagram, the.ray.porter. Same is true on Threads. TikTok, the real Ray Porter. I'm not a wizard at self-promotion. I mean, I will occasionally be like, hey, this book's coming out, and I probably should do that more. Oh, I'm also on Cameo.
So I'm the worst at getting off the phone.
Yeah.
My kids make fun of me. I'll start a goodbye, and then we'll begin a whole new conversation, right?
You could be British and just say bye 17 times before you hang up.
Bye.
Bye, 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 bye.
Mother-in-law, literally, mother-in-law would just, she would just hang up. She couldn't, she didn't want to be rude, didn't want to be the one that said goodbye. So I'm saying goodbye.
Okay.
But one last thing before we go. Let's say we're done. We're still sitting around here a couple of hours from now. We've had a drink or telling stories or whatever beverage you want. As the evening was winding down and they were kicking us out of the pub, what's the thing you would tell me that you haven't told me so far?
There's so many stories that we could share, which would make for a rollicking evening. To me, the most important thing is that we do have the stories, that we actually took the time to notice these things and remember them. A lot of people, an event will occur and it's like, oh yeah, that happened. And they move on. I like the ones who hang on to them. I told you this story that's not repeatable about a film that I did, where I said I didn't know why I had done that movie until this thing occurred. And I went, that's why I did it, for the story.
Yep.
To tell people about it. I love being in the UK. I've never, ever felt more at home anywhere in my life than there. When I moved over there for the movie, I had no expectations, and I'd been over once as a tourist, but living there is a different deal, and I was outside London. But everything just fit. Everything was right. And to me, one of the greatest... well, there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the things I adore is the pub culture, where you go down and strangers end up in conversations with each other, and you end up leaving with, a lifelong friend just based on banter, like you and I have been engaging in this afternoon. One of the things where I was living, randomly, I felt very strongly about staying in a small town, not in London, not even in Watford near where the studios were, but a small town. There was one town that had an opening in the school for my son to attend, Berkhamsted in Hertfordshire. So ended up there, and I could see the ruins of Berkhamsted Castle out of the kitchen window. Berkhamsted Castle is where the English formally surrendered the crown to William the Conqueror. I was there about 4 months, and I couldn't figure out why. How do I know my way around London? Just dead reckoning. Why does everything just make sense? It was the best fit of any place I'd ever lived. My aunt, who lives in Philadelphia, contacted me and said, your mother tells me you're living in England. I've been chasing down a family line, and I'm wondering, I'll pay the train fare, but I'm wondering if you could get a photograph of this one place that's significant in our extended family history. And I'm like, of course, wherever I have to go, whatever. And she said, okay, your something great grandfather, Richard Plantagenet, 1st Earl of Cornwall, lived in a place called Berkhamsted Castle. Is that near you? And I said, it's out my kitchen window. And then my next thought was, almost 20 years at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, I never played a Plantagenet, and I fucking am one.
That's crazy.
It was nuts. Yeah. So just little things like that where it's like, yeah, okay. I'm on the right path, I suppose.
Wow. That's that is so cool.
It's amazing.
I want to say this is so much fun.
It's always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
And I'm so looking forward to more stuff that not only has your voice, but your voice.
Thank you.
Because I'm going to be excited to see this journey.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Ray, thanks for coming on.
Hey, man, thank you. Pleasure is all mine. It was great.
I'm so glad no one's listening. It's just much better.
Thank God. Who's our sponsor heading out?
Eavesdroppers, Anonymous.
Have you heard something you shouldn't have? Come to us. We won't respond directly, but just hang out in restaurants listening at other tables, and you'll figure out where the meeting is. We're Eavesdroppers Anonymous. I don't know.
That's very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Because the best information is secondhand. Thank you again, man. This was great.
All right. We are out.
Cool.
Don't worry, no one's listening.
DWNOL is produced by Lisa Lindo for Rocket Surgeon Productions and presented by Bookster. DWNOL themes by Trina Davis and Annie Musical Team. More later. Oh, hey, I forgot. One last thing. Don't fear adverbs. People say, kill all your adverbs. They're like mosquitoes. And if you don't use them wisely, I will get Ray Porter to rant at you about why he doesn't like them, especially modifying dialogue tags. The trick is not to overdo it. One adverb can sparkle 50, and you're going to get a visit from Ray.